Another day, another story. Hallucinogens are a class of psychoactive drugs that produce temporary mental changes that include distorted sensory perception and dreamlike states of consciousness. For thousands of years, hallucinogenic substances have been linked with profound mystical experience. The Rig Veda mentions a plant substance known as soma, which, when ingested, produced brilliant visions of paradise. Most scholars believe the drug was a hallucinogen, although the exact plant is unidentified in modern times. Welcome to Taboo Eminent Channel. The Eleusinian Mysteries, an ancient Greek ritual that persisted for nearly 2,000 years, were likewise centered on a beverage, known as kaikon, that was capable of producing altered states of consciousness. In the Americas, the Aztecs used a variety of hallucinogenic substances in religious and social rituals. In the 1950s and 60s, hallucinogens were the subject of serious scientific study. One of the most famous studies was the so-called Good Friday experiment, in which 20 theology students were given the hallucinogen psilocybin or a placebo during a Good Friday church service. The students who received psilocybin reported having intense religious experiences. The apparent link between hallucinogen use and spiritual experience led some researchers to investigate the possible uses of hallucinogens as a treatment for psychiatric problems such as addiction, anxiety, and depression. The use of hallucinogens in scientific research was paralleled by their proliferation in the counterculture as recreational drugs. The widespread recreational use of hallucinogens in hippie culture provoked a cultural and political backlash that ultimately led to the criminalization of such drugs under the Controlled Substances Act of 1970. This legislation also had the effect of suppressing most scientific research concerning hallucinogens. After a long absence, hallucinogens began to reappear in scientific research in the late 1990s. The new studies, which have investigated the therapeutic applications of hallucinogens for a variety of conditions, have been conducted with greater methodological rigor and attention to patient safety than their predecessors in the 1960s. Most of the studies have been small, since hallucinogens are still tightly controlled, and the U.S. government does not recognize any legitimate medical uses and thus does not offer any funding for research. But researchers have generally characterized their initial results as very promising. For example, studies on patients with terminal illnesses found that the mystical experiences induced by psilocybin produced stronger and longer-lasting improvements in patients' symptoms of depression and anxiety than conventional treatments. Research into the therapeutic uses of hallucinogens has gained momentum in recent years, particularly with substances like psilocybin, found in certain mushrooms, and LSD, lysergic acid diethylamide. These substances have shown promise in treating various mental health conditions, including depression, anxiety, PTSD, and addiction. Here are some key areas where hallucinogens are being investigated for therapeutic purposes. Depression. Studies have shown that psilocybin-assisted therapy can produce significant and lasting reductions in depression symptoms, even in treatment-resistant cases. The substance is believed to work by inducing profound mystical experiences that can lead to increased well-being and shifts in perspective. Anxiety. Similar to its effects on depression, psilocybin has demonstrated potential in reducing anxiety, particularly in patients facing life-threatening illnesses like cancer. The substance may help individuals confront their fears and existential concerns, leading to decreased anxiety and improved quality of life. Post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, MDMA, 3,4-methylenedioxymethamphetamine, although not a classic hallucinogen, is being studied for its therapeutic effects in treating PTSD. MDMA-assisted therapy has shown promise in helping patients process traumatic memories and emotions, leading to symptom reduction and improved functioning. Addiction. Hallucinogens such as psilocybin and ayahuasca have shown potential in treating addiction to substances like alcohol, nicotine, and opioids. These substances may help individuals break free from addictive patterns by facilitating introspection, enhancing emotional processing, and promoting a sense of interconnectedness. Existential distress in terminal illness. Psilocybin has been studied for its ability to alleviate existential distress and improve quality of life in patients facing terminal illnesses. By inducing mystical experiences and fostering a sense of interconnectedness, psilocybin therapy may help individuals come to terms with their mortality and find meaning in their lives. In the dimly lit room of a clinical research center, Sarah sat comfortably on a plush couch, a blindfold covering her eyes. She took a deep breath, preparing herself for the journey ahead. Sarah had struggled with depression for years, trying various medications and therapies with limited success. Now, she was embarking on a different kind of treatment, psilocybin-assisted therapy. The therapist sat beside her, offering reassurance and guidance as the effects of the psilocybin began to take hold. Sarah's mind opened up to a realm of vivid colors and swirling patterns, and she felt a profound sense of connection to something greater than herself. As the session unfolded, Sarah experienced moments of intense introspection and emotional release, confronting long-buried traumas and negative thought patterns. In the weeks that followed, Sarah noticed subtle but significant shifts in her mood and outlook on life. The heavy weight of depression began to lift, replaced by a newfound sense of clarity and purpose. With each subsequent therapy session, Sarah delved deeper into her psyche, unraveling the knots of pain and self-doubt that had plagued her for so long. As the clinical trial progressed, researchers observed similar transformations in other participants. Longitudinal studies revealed that a single dose of psilocybin, combined with supportive therapy, could produce lasting improvements in depression symptoms, even in individuals who had not responded to conventional treatments. Word of these groundbreaking findings spread quickly, sparking renewed interest in the therapeutic potential of hallucinogens. Researchers and mental health professionals began exploring new avenues for treatment, conducting larger-scale trials and seeking regulatory approval for psychedelic-assisted therapy. Despite the promising results, challenges remained. Concerns about safety, legality, and stigma posed obstacles to widespread adoption of psychedelic therapy. Advocates and scientists alike called for increased funding and public education to address these barriers and ensure that patients like Sarah could access the care they needed. As the sun set on another day of research, Sarah reflected on her journey of healing. Though the path had been long and arduous, she was grateful for the hope and healing that psilocybin had brought into her life. With continued support and perseverance, she believed that a brighter future lay ahead for herself and countless others struggling with mental illness. It's important to note that while the preliminary findings are promising, research into the therapeutic uses of hallucinogens is still ongoing, and these substances are not without risks, especially when used outside of a controlled therapeutic setting. Ethical considerations, safety protocols, and regulatory hurdles also play significant roles in shaping the future of psychedelic-assisted therapy. Thanks for watching. Request you to subscribe the channel.